Welcome to another lesson of the Content Modeling Weekly course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, get a hold of me right there, marcelo@headlesscreator.com. Send me an email with questions, comments, ideas, whatever you like. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Now, in this four-part series, I'm taking you back to the basics and talking to you about the content modeling principles that I use on a daily basis when I'm modeling with clients and stakeholders, and that I highly recommend you live by when you're doing your content modeling. In today's lesson, we're going to focus on four specific ones. Use design as a guide, model intent, not design, keep design separate, and then make it omni-channel friendly. So let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to go ahead and jump in here. So we'll start with use design as a guide. And what do I mean by that? Let me bring up real quick a couple of documents that I want to show you. So these are some documents that I have in that I used in apple.com, right, in their support site. So you can see here we have basically a user guide, what they're calling a user guide, which has a title, some description with images, and then some information, and then some related articles. If we look at another version of this, you have a title with, again, more information. Then you have another, like a section title with some information, and another section with some information. So use design as a guide. And let's say you're working with your customer, your stakeholders, and you've got your designer there, and they go, hey, we need to deliver this page. We want this in our Headless CMS. So can you just model this page so we can start creating a whole bunch of these? And yeah, we're gonna have documents have like these sections, and it has a summary and an image and some related articles. So of course, the quick way to do this is let's create a user guide content type right here that has a heading, it has a summary. Since we're doing sections, let's give it a section heading and maybe a section summary. And some of them will have two sections. So we'll do another section heading and another section summary, like a second section heading and a second section summary, and then some related items that would point as a reference to maybe FAQs or other user guides, right? So this one right here would be kind of like 0 to many to user guide, let's say. So then you can point to others right there, okay? So what happens if you create this? Well, what happens is you actually are able to deliver this document. For this document, they only fill out the summary. They don't need the sections. For this document, they fill out, they don't need the summary, but actually they do right here, the heading, and then you have some summary at the top, and then you have a couple of sections, right? But now what happens if they need a third section or a fourth section? Well, you could say, well, you know, what we could do is we'll create a section that references many sections. Yeah, you could do that, but you're still kind of tying things to that design. So what I recommend you do, and a good way to do this would be, let's start analyzing this document. Before we move forward on creating something that we're going to be stuck with, let's analyze it for a second. So let's look at, I'm going to close this one because this one's the one that has the most, right? This document this guide has a title. It has some sort of description summary at the top. And then I notice here that we have some sections, but what are these sections? Well, these sections are how to, right? How to use Control Center, how to customize Control Center. All of these how-tos make up a complete user guide called Use Control Center on a Mac, right? So we're going to have a whole bunch of these. All right, so if we do that, then instead of saying, let's just give you a content type that you just add sections, what if we have a user guide that has title, summary, and you can add, you have a rich text field to add whatever you want in there as an author. Now, of course, you're going like, wait a minute, now we're creating rich text fields and it's not going to be broken, it's not intelligent content. No, it is, because in there, we're going to allow the ability to add how-tos by embedding, right? That becomes the structure. So what do? We'll create a how-to content type that has a title and description for now. So for example, we can create the how to use the Control Center and give it the description. Then we can create a how to customize Control Center and give it the description. Then we can embed those in there, and we can write whatever else we want inside the RTF. But whenever we want to add a section, all we do is embed a how-to section, right? in the RTF. Now we have a tip. What is this tip? Well, if you look at, let's go back to the document here. You can see that there is a tip right there. Now, of course, they could put that in a rich text field and just type the tip there and give it an icon, but then it's not reusable, right? So why not create a tip that has a title, it has a type, and a description? And the type could be, because the type is going to dictate what does that tip look like, what is the icon for that tip. Now we could remove icon here and let the code decide wherever it's going to be displayed, because the icon could be different for the web than it is for the mobile, right? And that's probably the best way to do it, to be honest with you. So we now have the ability to create a tip. So if we go back to this document, we can create this tip and reuse the tip in a million other places, which means that we have single source of truth. We can go back to that tip, update it, and wherever that tip is used, it'll be automatically updated to the correct tip. Now we also have the ability to create how-tos that are simple, it has a title and a description, and reuse those how-tos not only in user guides, but let's say we want to have an FAQ. And the FAQ, one of the questions in the FAQ is, how do I use the control center? Well, we can just embed the how-to there, which also, by the way, will have the tip, which is also single source of truth, because you can see here in the RTF, you can embed not only assets, but also tips. So now here we'll create a how-to with an embedded tip, and then we'll create another how-to, and then we'll embed those two how-tos in my user guide. Single source of truth everywhere. So if I create this use control center how-to, and all of a sudden that changes because we just released a new version of macOS, let's say, right? Well, I can just go to the how to use the control center, update that version, and wherever this is being used will automatically update it. So that takes care of single source of truth, but it also takes care of using design as a guide, right? Let's make sure we're able to deliver this document. We'll use it as a guide to make sure we have all the information we need to deliver this document, because that's what they want at the end of the day. But how we model it, let's make it scalable. Let's use the design as a guide to create a really good scalable content model that supports single source of truth. So that's why it's really important not to discount design and to make sure you work with your designers. But when you are having these meetings, say, look, I will deliver this document. These documents that you want, you'll get. Don't worry about that. But let's use this as a guide right now to make sure I provide you a content model that is fully scalable and that we can reuse across the organization, because now I can take the user guide and focus on the content. I can take the how-to and focus on the content and deliver it on the front end however I want. I can reuse tips everywhere. I can add a tip to how-tos. I can add them to user guides. I can add them to whatever I want to add them to, right? For example, here we have related content. You can see that we're relating content user guides. So it could be other user guides, but it could also be other how-tos. And honestly, I could say tip. So it could be a link to a tip, which could be used anywhere, right? So use design as a guide. Never discount your design. Use it as a guide, but explain to people, we're going to deliver this. We'll give you what you want, but let's focus on the content here. All right. So that's that principle. The next one is, we're still focusing on design, and I'm going to take a quick break here. Model intent, not design. So, and I have an entire lesson on this on the Content Modeling Weekly. Actually, I have 3 lessons on this, so check it out. But here's what let's go look at this document real quick. So here, this is on Google. Let me close up the Apple one. This is on Google, and you can see they have a box, like a call-out box. It's blue, and it's got a star, and there's some information. It says note here. Then they have this purple box, right? So we have another box, but it's purple this time, and it's got light. And then we have this red, orange, whatever color this is, box that is sort of a caution box. So we could model this as a very simple box to allow the author to add boxes. We can then embed those boxes wherever they want, and we'll call it box. We'll give it a name, right? We'll give it the name, whatever this box they want to call it. And then the description, then we can allow the author to give it an icon and a background color. That's great, but now we've focused on the design, not the intent, because if we look at, and I'll show you another mural board here, which is, this one is from, let's see if it loads up. Here we go. This one is from a previous lesson, 24. You can see that this is the intent diagram, and just go to lesson 24 to check that out. But you can see under callouts here, we've analyzed these boxes, right, and gave them names. Oop, let's go back here. We said one is a highlight. The intent is to highlight some note. Another one is an idea, that's a light bulb, is to explain an idea further. Then the graduation cap one is to describe and link to a learning source. And then finally, the last one, the exclamation mark, is a warning to make the user aware of something they should not be doing. So what's the difference?